Welcome to 21st Sports Recap and Reaction for the Seattle Seahawks versus the Arizona Cardinals in their Week 17 matchup played January 3rd, 2016. We're going to go over the scores and the stats and give our breakdown and analysis for this NFC West Division rivalry game. The Cardinals needed to win and have the Panthers lose to take home field advantage in the playoffs. They started this game with that as a possibility, and the Seahawks already in the playoffs, but they wanted to beat their division rivals who had taken the division title from them already and make a statement heading into the postseason. So to start things off, scoring-wise, in the first quarter, with about 5.5 minutes still left in the first, Bryce Brown scored on a 1-yard touchdown run. Stephen Hauschka added the extra point, and it was 7-0 Seahawks over the Cardinals. Then with about 3 minutes still left in the first, Hauschka hit a 52-yard field goal, and it was now 10-0 Seattle over Arizona. Then in the second quarter, with about 12 minutes left before halftime, Carson Palmer hit Larry Fitzgerald for a 17-yard touchdown. They missed the extra point, and so it was 10-6 with the Seahawks up by 4. And that would be the only score for the Cardinals in this game, as now the Seahawks just went off. They scored 3 more touchdowns in the second. Starting off, Russell Wilson to Will Tukufu, who on a 7-yard touchdown pass. Hauschka added the extra point. It was now 17-6 with 6 minutes left before halftime. Then with less than 4 minutes left before halftime, Russell Wilson hit Chase Kaufman for an 8-yard touchdown. Hauschka added the extra point to make it 24-6. Then, with just over 2 minutes left, right before the 2-minute warning, Russell Wilson hits Jermaine Kearse for a 24-yard touchdown to make it 30-6. That would be the score at halftime, and Carson Palmer would come out of this game at the half. Then in the third quarter, Hauschka added a pair of field goals, first a 33-yarder with about 9.5 left to make it 33-6, then a 52-yarder with about 5 minutes still left in the third to make it 36-6. As the Seahawks scored 26 unanswered points in this game after the Cardinals scored their only touchdown, their only score of the game, with about 12 minutes left in the second. So the Seahawks just dominate from then on out. They really dominated this entire game, and it's a huge loss for the Cardinals. The Cardinals already, the Panthers blew out the Bucs, so they weren't going to take the home field advantage anyway. They have the first round bye, but this ends their 9-game winning streak, and their season ends up at 13-3, which is a awesome record to have. They're 6-2 at home, but Seattle now evening up the series with the Cardinals, as Arizona had beat them in Seattle back in Week 10 in a close game, but Seattle just blows them out in Arizona. Actually, it was the site of where Super Bowl 49 had occurred. As you know, the Seahawks, that might have fired them up a little extra. Not that they needed to be fired up any extra, but they end up 10-6 on the season, 5-3 on the road. So they end up above 500 on the road. And in the playoffs, they're going to need to win on the road, as they are a wild card team. And it just remains to be seen where they will be going to play next week. So that'll be interesting to see what happens there. But the Cardinals, the one thing to take away from this is, it hurts to lose this way, especially all that momentum. The winning streak going into the playoffs is what you want to have. But at least the loss comes in Week 17 and not in their first playoff game. So maybe this will be a wake-up call. If you're a Cardinals fan, you didn't want to see this happen in the first playoff game. Better to lose now than in a couple weeks. Maybe then, with this loss, they can use that as motivation and, to really hunker down and work hard towards picking up a playoff victory. It's not going to be easy, though, as there's some good teams in the playoffs. And, of course, if they can win a playoff game, more than likely they'll end up having to face the Panthers in Carolina. Either of these teams, if they want to get to the Super Bowl, chances are that will be something that they'll have to accomplish. And that's easier said than done. But the Seahawks, they beat the Panthers last year in the playoffs. Of course, that was a whole different year, a whole different team. But we'll see what happens this year. This is a big win for Seattle. They're in the playoffs. They're already in there. But by beating the Cardinals in Arizona, who, had a chance to be the number one seed, it shows that Seattle can compete with the best of them. They are right there along with the best of them. And it's a very decisive win, a huge, huge win for Seattle, and to win in such a fashion. But in this game, Russell Wilson, 19 of 28, 197 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. Of course, he did leave the game in the fourth quarter. And all 3 of those touchdowns coming in the second quarter as he just went off. But Jackson came in. He was 3 for 4, 28 yards passing in relief. Christian Michael had 17 carries for 102 yards in this game. Brown had 10 carries for 20 yards and a touchdown. Doug Baldwin had 5 catches for 46 yards. Helfett had 4 catches for 42 yards. Tyler Lockett had 2 catches for 36 yards. Jermaine Kearse had 3 catches for 34 yards. Kaufman 4 catches for 29 yards and a touchdown. Kearse had a touchdown as well. And Tukafu had 1 catch. That was a touchdown, a 7-yard touchdown reception. And for Arizona, Carson Palmer, 12 of 25, 129 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Of course, that was all in the first half. Drew Stanton would come into the game in the second half. He was 8 for 18, 84 yards, and no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. David Johnson, 11 carries for just 25 yards in this game. He also had 3 catches for 34 yards, giving him 59 total yards in the game. Larry Fitzgerald had 6 catches for 55 yards and a touchdown. John Brown had 4 catches for 45 yards. Jermaine Gresham had 2 catches for 36 yards. And we look at the kickers in this game. Steven Hauschka, 3 for 4 on the field goals, 3 for 4 on the extra points. Chandler Catanzaro, 0 for 1 on the field goals, 0 for 1 on the extra points. Well, he went for 1 extra point. But on defense for the Seahawks in this game, Cliff Averill, 1.5 sacks. Michael Bennett had a half sack. Jeremy Lane had an interception. So did Sheed and Earl Thomas. And for Arizona, Dwight Freeney had a sack. We look at the team stats: 22 first downs for Seattle, 16 for Arizona. On third down, the Seahawks 8 for 15, 53% conversion rate. They went for it once on fourth, and they did convert. And for Arizona, 5 for 12 on third down, 41% conversion rate. They went for it once on fourth, and they turned the ball over on downs. Total net yards: 354 for Seattle, 232 for Arizona. On the ground, the Seahawks netted 145. Arizona just 27 net rushing yards. And through the air, the Seahawks netted 209. Arizona 205. Russell Wilson was sacked once for a 16-yard loss, and 2 sacks against Arizona for a total of 8 yards lost. In this game, the penalties, 6 apiece, but 70 penalty yards against the Seahawks, 43 against the Cardinals. And in the red zone in this game, the Seahawks were 3 for 6, 50%. The Cardinals were also 50%, but they were 1 for 2. And the time of possession, 36 minutes and 37 seconds for the Seahawks, 23 minutes and 23 seconds for the Cardinals. So a huge win for Seattle. They just dominated on both sides of the ball and came in with a big, big win. The Cardinals, they, at halftime especially, they were getting blown out by so much. Also, the Panthers, they were tearing it up, so they didn't really have necessarily anything to play for. But coming into the game, there was the possibility of home field advantage. Not only that, you got to get up against your division rivals. And, it's a weird thing because, say, the Cardinals win this game, it might have actually hurt them in the long run, because if they did have to face the Seahawks again, would they be able to beat them a third time? But, of course, the Seattle Seahawks, this win is big for them, being that they won in such a dominant fashion against what is the number 2 seed in the playoffs, and knowing that they can beat the top teams. They've already beat them before. They beat the Panthers last year, so it'll be interesting to see what Seattle can do in the postseason. Also, they get beast mode back. then it changes the complexion of things quite a bit, is then their running game. I mean, they got a lot of production out of Michael in this game. He had 102 rushing yards, so their running game is firing. And Russell Wilson, I mean, he is just on a whole nother level this year. He continues to just get better and better and better. So it'll be interesting to see what happens moving forward. But let me know what you think in the comments section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening. It's greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good week and having a great weekend. And enjoy all the sports.